Okay, folks, what we're going to do now is we are going to go over more of this UAP hearing. And basically what we'll do is we'll just skip over the three opening statements. But that's not where this hearing opened because it's just such a farce. It's just such a grandstand. It's just such an outward distraction to me that I felt like, yeah, no, we got to keep going with this. Because this is still going to be talked about. This is still the buzz. So we have to deconstruct it. So without further ado, let's get up to the opening of these hearings. And then, like I said, when we hit the point where they give their opening statements, okay, that's when we'll skip over it and we'll continue on for as long as we can in this second hour. So with that being said, let's get to it.
Tennessee. Without objection, so ordered. For today's subcommittee hearing, both the chair and ranking member will have 10 minutes for opening remarks. We may both be giving some of those minutes to other members of our party. I'm now going to recognize myself for 10 minutes. I'm actually going to try to get out of here in about 4, and then we'll give it to some of my friends over here. Good morning and welcome to the most exciting subcommittee in Congress this week, the Subcommittee on National Security, the Border, and Foreign Affairs for discussion of unidentified anomalous phenomenon. I'd like to thank the brave military pilots and personnel.
Everybody's brave. It's the most exciting hearing of the week. Boy, we just can't wait to hear about all the fun stuff. Come on. How can you take any of this seriously?
Such as the witnesses on the panel today for sharing their stories on how they have engaged UAPs, which has brought attention to this matter. Curiosity and speculation from all walks of life have generated interest in studying what UAPs are and what threats they may pose. I will say that when I was younger in school, I read a book, a 1966 book called Flying Saucers, Serious Business, and for a while, when I was a little bit younger, I thought it was the most important issue out there. The lack of a transparency regarding UAPs, which was one of the themes of that book.
No, it wasn't one of the themes of that book from 1966. It was the lack of transparency on UFOs, but you've changed the terminology on everything. And look, this is another example to me of how somebody got captured at a very, very early age. Okay, a very, very early age, whether they realized it or not. And that's an issue, right? They got captured at an early age. People don't really understand, what's happening. And then now, it's the most exciting hearing.
In any event, it's led to interest in studying what UAPs are and what threats they pose. The lack of transparency regarding UAPs has fueled wild speculation and debate for decades, eroding public trust in the very institutions that are meant to serve and protect them, as is evidenced by the large number of people we have here. I also want to point out in 1966, President Gerald Ford claimed to have seen a UFO, and in 1969 in Georgia, Jimmy Carter claimed to have seen a UFO. So this has led Congress to establish entities to examine UAPs. The National Defense Authorization Act of 2022 established the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, to conduct coordinated efforts.
NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, should never have been passed in the first place. These are the tools that they've utilized to oppress us since 9/11. And now the NDAA is a great thing because it's addressing the UFO issue. No, it's not.
Across the Department of Defense and other federal agencies to detect, identify, and investigate UAPs. However, AARO's budget remains classified, prohibiting meaningful oversight from Congress. In addition to AARO's efforts, NASA is leading an independent study on UAPs that will identify how UAP data is gathered from both civilian and government entities that can be analyzed to shed light on the topic. However, despite these offices being established, there lies a pressing demand for government transparency and accountability that cannot be overlooked, and that's been a problem that's been around for 50 years. The Biden administration handling of the Chinese spy balloon that violated U.S. airspace.
Wasn't a Chinese spy balloon? part of a network, all lies. Yes, China took responsibility for it. It was a global network. It's the Arctic Circle satellite system. Okay, they're satellites on balloons. The thing was massive. It was the size of a school bus. Okay, it wasn't a small thing. The Biden's handling of it. How about you're still talking about it like it was a Chinese spy balloon? Look, again, Hirsch laid it out. There is a network of these things for navigation. Somehow it was knocked off course, which ain't a good look. But I'm so sick of hearing about the Chinese spy balloon. Again, farce of a hearing. Farce of a hearing. Just point it out.
Is one example how the government is not prepared for these. The Biden administration's description of events has shown that the government continues not to be forthright. Between the Chinese balloon being shot down and 2 UAPs subsequently shot down following the event earlier this year, the U.S. government spent $1.5 million in taxpayer dollars on missiles.
Again, I just have to say it. UAP, they knew what they were. They were not unidentified. The other two balloons that were shot down were part of the same network. Like, again, right from the very beginning of this hearing, we're in so many levels of imagination land. It's hard for me to take it seriously, and it's hard for me to take seriously those that are like, it's happening, we're gonna find out, we know. You're not paying attention. You're not even paying attention on the peripheral.
Yet we have seen little clarity from the Biden administration. We must demand transparency from the Department of Defense, our intelligence community, and our defense industry on the UAP work. We're going to ask some questions about that today. Congress recognizes the subject of UAPs as multifaceted and requires a careful, data-driven approach. Today, we'll see clarity from these witnesses' testimonies, or we'll seek clarity as to what can be done to improve reporting for military and civilians and remain committed to objective inquiry. Congress should work to ensure that knowledge is not driven by fear. Today, we are not just debating the existence of UAPs, we are deliberating on the principles that define our republic, which is a commitment to transparency and accountability. I look forward to hearing from...
Which has been a joke. And the reason that even these hearings exist, there is no transparency. This is a cover story, mass psychological operation to hide the advanced technologies the military-industrial complex has worked on in the fields of weapons defense, energy production, and propulsion, bare minimum. That's all this is.
Our witnesses today about ways we can improve government efficiency and openness when it comes to UAPs. I thank each of you for your presence here today and for your dedication to safeguarding the interests of the American people. I look forward to your testimony. Now I'm going to turn it over for 2.5 or 3 minutes to Representative Burchett from Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. I want to thank everybody for making this happen today, and I want to remind everybody this is a nonpartisan issue. This has nothing to do with party politics. I think the cover-up goes a lot deeper than that. I also want to thank my colleagues, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, sitting beside me here, Jared Moskowitz, my friend across the aisle, has an incredible mind, and I'm anxious to hear his questions, my buddy Eric Burleson, and it's not in my notes here, but Matt Gates. If it hadn't been for Matt Gates, myself, him, and Luna would still be down at Eglin Air Force Base trying to get some answers. He's got an incredible legal mind. Also,
once again, trying to get some, you're not getting any answers. You're getting a bunch of fluff. You're getting a bunch of misinformation and disinformation from a guy, you know, the Grush fella that doesn't even have any first-hand accounts. The other two guys, okay, first-hand accounts. No first-hand accounts of aliens. No, of technology. And at least the last guy there acknowledges that. And look, it's a long time coming that we get some transparency, but if you think that known liars that have a system that is inbuilt, it is inbuilt, that you want to compartmentalize, you want to keep the main thing a secret, right? You're a liar. You're in a lying system. You're in a dishonest system on purpose, right? So how do you peel back those layers when you don't have any hardcore physical proof of any of this stuff? When I say hardcore physical proof, I'm not talking about just videos and not just eyewitness accounts. If you don't have access to the black programs or the special access programs, and you don't have access to the bases and the training facilities and the underground facilities where this is going on, this is all theater. It's a joke. I'm so glad that everybody's got a great mind.
I know I saw it in the crowd there, George Knapp, my buddy Jeremy Corbell. They're not witnesses, but they've provided some statements on this subject, and I seek unanimous consent to enter those statements into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection.
Also, would like to enter in, I understand now that this is unclassified and it's public record, but as we all know, that's sometimes difficult for the public to get a hold of. A report, Defense Intelligence reference documents, advanced space propulsion based on vacuum, space-time metric engineering, some light reading for some of our members.
Without objection.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp wrote, since 1969, the position of our military has been that UFOs pose no threat to national security and are not worthy of further study. I'd say that's the biggest understatement of the decade.
Again, do you even know what you're saying? Not worthy of study. Of course it's all worthy of study. You're not even reading it right. Like, that's not an understatement. Like, again, very unimpressive people. I don't know much about the representative from Tennessee here, but these are the people that are running our government. They're jokes.
He also goes on to talk about the dismissive attitude. It's at odds with what was revealed in documents, reports, and internal memos. And Mr. Cabral says, as he writes these words, the UFO is emerging as a major topic of global importance. I can state that as a fact. Out there, I met a fellow who came in here all the way from Denmark to be here for this meeting. So this is huge. This is worldwide. I think we suspect what's going on, but I'd also like to thank the members of Congress who have supported our efforts to make this hearing happen. Some have even confided to me that they've had UFO sightings of their own. Those members, of course, some of them wish to remain anonymous, and I'll keep it that way. But also, finally, I'd like to thank these three brave witnesses here. They took an oath. They took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and dadgummit, they're doing it. And we owe them a debt of gratitude.
I just can't take it. It's so, I mean, there's Corbell and Knapp. Oh, they owed a debt. I don't owe a debt of gratitude to any of these people at all, especially the Grush character that, again, seems so emotionally unstable, has no firsthand information, is a National Guardsman. And that's, again, that's not me degrading the National Guard position. There are those in those positions that go up the line via the intelligence community, via their education, and certainly have special access and are part of those programs and definitely become a part of the quote-unquote intelligence community. But this guy, everything about Grush is just completely unimpressive. So to me, this is the useful idiot that they used as a vehicle to get this information, which they wanted out. This disinformation, this misinformation, this idea that there are bodies and there have been wars and conflicts and the aliens are killing people and people have been killed because of this information. And we like that information in a skiff. We won't hear it here. There are no first-hand accounts here. What? Bizarro land. You know, why don't we have the same attitude to people that came forward about, I don't know, torture in Iraq, like real whistleblowers? Huh? Why don't we have that? Oh, this reaches across the aisle. This isn't a partisan issue. We can all clap here. Just boggles the mind.
Y'all quit clapping. You're cutting in on my time. Just kidding. These folks, they've got nothing to gain from this, and I think you're going to find out that they've endured quite a few slings and arrows. We need to remember them in our prayers and their families. And I'm thankful to them for their honest testimonies. They have done interviews and appeared in documentaries like Accidental Truth to get their stories out there. And and now they are all here to testify under oath for Congress. It's been so difficult to get here today. I've said, you know, in the Baptist church, we'd say that the devil's in our way, and the devil has been in our way through this thing. We've run into roadblocks from members, from the intelligence community, the Pentagon. I proposed legislation to go in the FAA reauthorization that just said if an airline pilot has a sighting, that when he makes that report to the FAA, that it would come to Congress. But I was told that the intelligence community did not like that, and the amendment was not even heard in committee. I think it's time for this country to take back our country. We need to tell the folks at the Pentagon they work for us. Dadgummit, we don't work for them. And that's exactly the point. This is an issue of government transparency. We can't trust a government that does not trust its people.
No, we can't. And that's why this hearing is bogus. And that's not to say that we shouldn't have hearings like this, but like the starter pack needs to be a mass declassification of documents, photographs, and videos. And then from those declassified documents, that mass declassification, you start calling in witnesses of what? The contractors and military personnel that worked on them. And that's a start to transparency. That's not what this is. All right. All this stuff is recent. And how long has it been captured? Right? Like we've already talked about 50 plus years. So let's start there. You know, I also don't buy into the idea that gets floated around all the time by Tucker Carlson that everybody who was ostensibly involved in the JFK assassination is dead. They were involved on a low level in their early 20s, which is very possible. You look at the Oswald factor. Oswald, extremely intelligent, multilingual, well-traveled young guy in his 20s. Just saying. So, you know, we still have people that survived the Holocaust during World War II. The idea that just everybody is gone that was involved in that, I don't buy that. I think there were lower level guys that are still around that have climbed up the ladders and may even be household names today. I mean, so much to do if you want to, quote unquote, take back the government from a Pentagon that's out of control. I mean, the Pentagon runs the signature reduction program, which has zero oversight.
We're not bringing little green men or flying saucers into the hearing. Sorry to disappoint about half y'all. We're just going to get to the facts. We're going to uncover the cover-up, and I hope this is just the beginning of many more hearings and more people coming forward about this. And I yield back the remainder of my time. I think, is it to Representative Luna, Mr. Chairman? Or is that?
Yeah, we'll call Ms. Luna for her statement.
The circumstances surrounding UAPs has captivated the attention of the American people for decades, ingrained in even the minds of our nation's leaders from Jimmy Carter to Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton to Donald Trump, Marco Rubio to Chuck Schumer, John Radcliffe to National Security Council officials. Yet from Roswell, New Mexico to the coast of Jacksonville, Florida, the sightings of UAPs have rarely been explained by the people who have firsthand accounts of these situations. This is largely due to the lack of transparency by our own government and the failure of our elected leaders to make good on their promises to release explanations and footage and mountains of overclassified documents that continue to be hidden from the American people. This isn't just how I feel. In fact, the American people largely believe that the government has actively covered up the truth about UAPs.
Every time I hear UAP, I want to vomit. I mean, yeah, any thinking person knows for a fact that obviously there's been a massive cover-up involving UFOs, aerial phenomenon, aircraft, weapon systems, all those things, 100%. And if you want to throw aliens or interdimensional beings in there, that's speculation. That's 100% speculation. We know for a fact, that when they were doing the Silver Bird, it's killing me. I can't think about this. I mean, you just look at the stealth bomber. All right, there's one. The SR-71, that's what I'm thinking of. The SR-71 program. A ton of those SR-71 sightings were determined to be UFOs because of how fast they were moving and the shine. And that's just small potatoes compared to what we don't know about, because they don't declassify everything.
One poll in particular found that 68% of Americans believe that the government is hiding information about UAPs and not being honest about what we know about them. And from my personal experience, I believe the same thing. Another poll found that nearly half Americans believe that the federal government is doing a very bad or somewhat bad job of dealing with reports of UFO sightings. As Representative Burchett just referenced on the FAA bill that just went through, you can tell that that's exactly happening. Considering the thousands of testimonies and videos taken on people's phones and eyewitnesses' accounts made by credible witnesses such as doctors, pilots, scientists, and active duty service members, it is unacceptable to continue to gaslight Americans into thinking that this is not happening or that the potential of intelligent life forms exists other than humans. Even more alarming is the fact that these eyewitnesses are many of times service members and have no assurance that their lives will not be negatively impacted or even harmed by their experiences. In being an active duty service member working on an airfield, I've had conversations with many pilots where they were in fear of coming forward for retribution and or being taken off flight status. How do we know this? Because the government has said nothing to assure us otherwise. They have also did nothing to calm the concerns of over 20% of Americans who have reported to have seen UFOs or UAPs. We are simply told not to question the government and that the government has it under control. Today is the first hearing of its kind where we will attempt to get down to the bottom of what is actually happening with UAPs.
Attempt to get to the bottom. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Just such a show. So, and you know what? I don't know much about this woman either. Anna Paulina Luna. Don't really know about her. All these people have been pretty unimpressive to me. She's sitting here reading off a script again. A prepared statement. And I get it. You're in the halls of government. You've only got so much time. How about just like some bullet points? And you're exceptional enough of a person to remember what you were going to say about those bullet points. That just a thought. That's how I look at it with these people. And that's just the beginning of the whole thing.
But we will hear from people who have had personal sightings rather than Pentagon bureaucrats who have always been sent to stonewall our investigations. Just so that the press knows and the people know, we were even denied access to a classified briefing in a SCIF prior to this hearing due to the amount of hoops that we had to jump through to grant temporary clearance to witness Grush, who has knowledge of classified information. It is time to have an open-minded discussion on this topic, to hear the evidence and understand the magnitude of what this means, not just for our nation, but for humanity. Thank you, Chairman. I yield back the rest of my time.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank you and Mr. Burchett for bringing this topic to my attention. Now we'll recognize National Security Subcommittee Ranking Member Garcia for 10 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank first our witnesses for joining us today. I want to begin by thanking you all for your service to our country and for sharing your voices today and your courage to be here as well. To Mr. Graves, particularly grateful to you to spend some time that we had for you to share with candor some of your experiences, so I appreciate that as well. I do want to thank all the members of our subcommittee today and also those that are here and have waved on for their incredible interest in this issue.
Can we cut out the bullshit? Why are we wasting time thanking anybody? You have a limited amount of time, and you're acting like you're trying to get to the bottom of something, and everybody's in their little three-piece suit, and some of them got their little buttons on. He's well-groomed. That's nice. That's great. Do I got to listen to 90 seconds of back patting and ass grabbing? For what? For what?
Particularly to Congressman Burchett, I know that your leadership has brought us to this place today, and I want to thank you for that, as well as everyone else that's been engaged in this work. I also want to thank the oversight staff, who I know has been working very hard to ensure that today's hearing is serious, that it's transparent, and that it also provides appropriate answers, as our oversight body always demands.
Not serious. Appropriate. What are appropriate answers? The truth is the only appropriate answer. Okay? And they're not putting the truth on display here. Again, we're not declassifying documents that are decade upon decade upon decade old. We're not showing any physical evidence. We're not showing any declassified video footage. We're continually talking about a Tic Tac video that the New York Times didn't even release, that they say they released. That was out well before then, amongst others. and about a group of people that are about as shady as they get, including Elizondo. All these UAP whistle. Oh yeah, they've got so many repercussions against them. He's got a TV show.
Now, it's really important that we're here in a bipartisan way to have this conversation, which really, to the heart of it, is about national security and key to the subcommittee's core purpose. This is the subcommittee on national security of the Oversight Committee. Now, our witnesses will testify today that UAPs pose a serious safety threat, and we must understand this. More broadly, we're dealing...
You see what I'm talking about? That's the focus. Oh, it's the safety threat. Let's hype up the budget. Let's weaponize space, right? Let's already empower NASA further, an organization that does about 20% in space and has about 80% of other projects around, very involved in the climate change data, very involved in classified technology developed by DARPA and others, very involved in the weaponization of space through the Defense Department. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. Give me a break. Come on.
Dealing with real questions that get to the heart of our faith in government. Faith in our institutions, as we all know, is at an all-time low. Partisanship and alternative facts make it too easy to doubt narrative or our institutions. But this hearing will offer the public unique perspectives, building on years of reporting by both federal agencies and the independent media. Now, some of the earliest reporting on this issue was a groundbreaking 2017 New York Times report, which revealed research, as we know now, on unidentified anomalous...
Nothing groundbreaking about it. Not a thing was groundbreaking about that. Nothing. It was regurgitated information that they put a nice, shiny New York Times banner on to boost that publication as an authoritative source when we know it continually lies to us about almost every major issue. From wars to the economy to medical information. The New York Times is amongst the worst. Nothing groundbreaking about it at all. When you hear that, you're listening to another hack that has no idea what this issue is at all and is putting out establishment talking points.
Phenomena, as many call UFOs, by the Defense Intelligence Agency. Mr. Gray's and Commander Favor's experiences with UAPs have also been documented by the public, not just by the New York Times, but CNN and many other national news outlets. Now, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has published public reports documenting UAPs, and on June 9th, 2022, NASA announced that the agency is commissioning a study to, of course, examine unidentified anomalous phenomena. Now, the sheer number of reports, whistleblowers, and stories of unidentified anomalous phenomena should raise real questions and warrant investigation and oversight.
Yeah, no, a real investigation, but not just a real investigation. Again, you've got to start with the baseline information where a lot of these special access programs and black programs began. And you're dealing with an entity that not only takes a large portion of funding, all right, but you're also dealing with an entity in the military-industrial complex that is a vacuum for power, that has a bunch of people who are, you don't want to call them social climbers because socially, yeah, they are climbing up the ladder, but they more than likely like to be in that military-industrial complex apparatus in higher and higher powers. And I'm talking about the military personnel that run these programs. Because so often when you look into history and you read about the people that are involved in these type of things, the stuff that does get declassified, right? You find out that the scientists or the engineers working on these programs are often giving warnings or they're uncomfortable, etc. But it's that driving military force that keeps these programs pushing forward and keeps a lot of those people in the dark as to what the actual program is trying to accomplish.
And that's why we are here today. Now, pilots have reported encounters for years. Now, because of the stigma around reporting these incidents, we still don't have a complete picture of actually what's going on, particularly as our witnesses will testify on the civilian side, and that is a real problem that we have today in the country. Now, it's very important that we show that Democrats and Republicans in Congress can come together in a bipartisan way to cut through misinformation and to look at the facts in a serious and thoughtful manner. If we are to advance oversight and public disclosure, we must also gain the broad support of the public. We will succeed getting facts out to the public faster if there is a broad public support as part of the process.
It's nonsense. They want the public to be mesmerized by the narrative that aliens are out there, we're no longer safe, and we got to put weapons in space. We need a big budget for that. And Lord knows if they ever actually play the alien card. That's why I focused so heavily on it yesterday. That's why I focused on the chimera aspect of it yesterday. That's the reality.
Now, I understand fully that the Department of Defense is hesitant to share information that could also undermine our national security by revealing information on the capabilities of our own aircraft, our sensors, and other sensitive material. At the same time, many people believe that we're withholding information from them, and that is dangerous also. I believe in openness and transparency. That is also the role of Congress. And I mean,
is this the best Democrat ever from California? I've seen him on other issues, and openness and transparency doesn't really seem to be what this guy's about. Just want to point that out. Every time I've seen him speak, it's about partisan Johnny nonsense. Just pointing that out.
I trust that the American people will be able to weigh the evidence and make up their own minds. Now, we have incidents where sensors, sometimes even multiple types of sensors, detect things that we cannot explain. UAPs, whatever they may pose a serious threat to our military or civilian aircraft, and that must be understood. Now, my career and training as a longtime and career educator and teacher and researcher tell me that we should never rule anything out. We know that our space, of course, is vast and undiscovered. I also want to note that Mr. Sean Kirkpatrick, director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the component of the DoD office that investigates UAP data, has testified before the Senate this year that his unit has found no evidence of extraterrestrial activity. NASA has also stated they don't have evidence of extraterrestrial life either, and we've heard this, of course, from some of our government agencies. And we should remind viewers and witnesses, which I think is really important, that we also cannot share classified information in public settings. But questions, of course, remain that people want to see data and information for themselves.
First of all, everything's so overly classified. Even if you were sharing this quote-unquote classified information in a public setting, it would largely lead nowhere. A lot of the stuff that's classified, you can already piece together through public information, openly disclosed information. And why is that? Because the classification system is really a barrier for you to get to the good stuff, the real stuff. This is another layer of deception, of obfuscation from what's really going on in these programs, okay?
The enormous interest in the hearing today underscores the importance of a fair and open look at the evidence from witnesses who can share their unique perspectives. Now, I know I certainly have a lot of questions, and I know that all the members of our committee do as well. We should come to this hearing with an open mind, and we should not let our existing ideas restrict us on either side. I hear over and over from many agencies the stigma around reporting and investigating UAPs prevents us from getting real answers. We know that whistleblowers have reported harassment, intimidation, or stigma as well, and this is not acceptable. If people can't report incidents which would have national security or safety implications, then that also has serious consequences for us. As ranking member of this subcommittee, I know my job would be completely impossible if whistleblowers or others feel intimidated to come before this committee. We can't be afraid of asking questions, and we can't be afraid of the truth. I'm proud to say that this hearing builds upon bipartisan work by members of the House and Senate dating many years back, which has sought to increase awareness within the Department of Defense and to mandate more of Congress of UAPs. We know the Senate is taking up an amendment to their defense authorization bill, which will create a commission with broad declassification authority, and we should all agree that that is an important step.
Again, remember these defense authorization bills are constantly reauthorizing the Patriot Act. constantly reauthorizing all of these homeland security programs, constantly reauthorizing the fusion centers around the country, constantly reauthorizing programs like signature reduction that have no accountability from groups like this. Now, that's the hearing I want to see. I want to see a signature reduction hearing. That should be nonpartisan. And that should have people on both sides of the aisle going in hardcore as to why the military has been privatized and is now referred to as an art form, and why there are 60,000 of these people, and why they're acting under masked identities, both online and in person. That is no bueno. That is not how you have a constitutional republic of checks and balances. That is a real issue. A real issue. But what are they talking about? Really, how they need more secrecy and they need more funding, and they've got to pass all of these National Defense Authorization Acts, anything for the intelligence community and the Pentagon that they're telling you are openly lying to them. It's kind of paradoxical, right?
Members of both parties and senior officials in multiple administrations have taken an interest in this issue, and we're proud to carry and build that confidence in the American people. This hearing will also not be the end of this discussion, but a new chapter and start to years and years of work that many folks, both in the public and within government, have been working on. We should encourage more reporting, not less, on UAPs. The more we understand, the safer we will be. We will hear testimony from witnesses.
When do we become unsafe? It's always about safety. Whose safety right now is in jeopardy because of a UAP threat? Like really? Let me tell you whose. Okay? If you're talking about real aerial phenomenon, most likely ours, the United States, okay? Now you're talking about the safety of those in the Middle East from death from above, whether it comes from that vehicle or not, or it triggers some rods from God, some drone swarms, some people to look at their smart dust data. Those are the real threats, okay? And this hearing isn't going to make anybody safer. That's ridiculous. That shows how pathetic these politicians and their talking points are. The UAP threat. They're constantly referring to it. It's a threat. It's a threat. It's a threat. Get into your head. It's a threat. We're going to make you safe, 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 safe. Thanks, but no thanks. I don't want your safety. Thanks.
Today, with a long record of service to the American people and with subject matter expertise. Our witnesses have a unique opportunity to share their perspective, insights, and their experiences with the American people. And I encourage all of my colleagues to engage with these difficult questions with an open mind and to follow the facts on behalf of our country. I also just want to say more broadly that we should look at this hearing and believe that everything is on the table as it relates to UAPs. I think an open mind is absolutely the best. I want to yield the 2.5 minutes, the remainder of my time, to the representative from Florida, Representative Moskowitz, for an opening statement. He also has been very much engaged in this issue, and I want to thank him for his leadership. Congressman.
Thank you, Ranking Member Garcia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Tim Burchett and Anna Paulina Luna for their leadership in pushing.
Thank you. Got some more. Thank yous. What a waste.
This hearing forward. I want to thank, obviously, committee staff and their staff working on this on a bipartisan basis because many Americans are deeply interested in this issue, and it shouldn't take the potential of non-human origin to bring us together. Additionally, I want to thank the witnesses for coming forward to share your perspectives, your thoughts, and the sightings of UAPs. Unlike other hearings many times in Congress, you're not here to help a political party, but you're here to share information with the American people.
Yeah, you're helping the uniparty. 100%. Share information with the American people. Again, just grandstanding and a false facade. The uniparty exists. Very apparent that it exists. Again, love Donnie T, hate Donnie T. These indictments that we're seeing, and the more and more Republicans out there that are going along with the mainstream talking points. So we just got to find somebody else. And maybe he did break the law. And these classified documents, it looks pretty bad for him. And it was an insurrection on January 6th, the Uniparty. You got like a handful of people on one side right now speaking the truth. And the bottom line is, if the Republicans get back in, there'll be a handful of people on the left that are speaking the truth. It's how it always works. Like, you know, you look at Matt Gaetz, who they've talked about several times here. And look, I've given Gaetz credit when he's done good things, and he has done some really good things. He dressed down Durham during that hearing. That's a hearing we should have, so you can expose the guy who's part of the cover-up crew. It's still kind of a show hearing because no one's going to jail. But then you have Gaetz sitting there talking about Google and their politics and talking about how a bunch of engineers refused to build drone software and hardware that could one day be utilized against the American people, and really is going to be utilized immediately overseas. And still, whether American doesn't matter, it will kill people. I'm okay with them saying, you know what, no thanks. Oh, but and then Gaetz, well, they'll work with China. It's all one thing. It's all one thing. There's a reason the Chinese have a multitude of the same kind of technologies that we do. And it's not just infiltration and spying and double and triple agents. There's literally been a transfer of that knowledge, okay, via the Predator class, the military industrial complex, on purpose. Because they're not only looking for a uniparty, they're looking for a global entity, a global empire, a global war machine and military force that can exude its power on the rest of us.
And it's not something that is just going on in this administration. It's something that's spanned many administrations. For decades, many Americans have been fascinated by objects mysterious and unexplained, and it's long past time that they got some answers. The American public has a right to learn about technologies of unknown origins, non-human intelligence, and unexplainable phenomena. Those are not the words of a UFO Twitter account, though that is a direct quote from Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, that the American public has a right to learn about technologies of unknown origins, non-human intelligence, and unexplainable phenomena.
Chuck Schumer, terrible person. Do you think Chuck Schumer has your best interests at heart? I mean, that is the quintessential scumbag politician. Mr. Dancing in the Park with Stephen Colbert. In fact, can we find that? Because it's just so cringeworthy. Colbert and Schumer dance. Let's see. Yeah. Here we go. I mean, these are the people. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're outside in the park. That's Chuck Schumer. Oh, we're high-fiving Colbert wearing that mask. Yeah, Chucky Schumer. Chucky. I mean, give me a break. A bunch of Johnny nonsense, a bunch of people. I mean, at least Colbert with his cringeworthy dance moves here. I'll turn off the thing and have him silent dance. Come on in, Steven. Come on. I know you're not wearing a mask, and neither is your staff. That guy's got it around his chin, but we're all play acting. Yeah, Chuck Schumer's going to make things better. Yeah, Chucky. Come on. Get with it. I mean, oh, God, so cringeworthy.
In an interview with Fox News, recent former Director of National Intelligence John Radcliffe confirmed the U.S. government is aware a lot more sightings of UAPs and that they have not made that information public. I quote,
"Of course, because they're responsible for a bunch of them. The vast majority of them.
There are a lot more sightings that have not been made public," Radcliffe said to Fox News. For me, this hearing is about transparency. We unfortunately live in a time in which many people distrust government and our institutions, and overclassification of information away from the American public or even Congress contributes to today's politics. The American people have regular questions. What are UAPs? How come the media doesn't report more on them? Are they foreign adversaries? Are they U.S. technology? Are they something else? They ask themselves, how come when a Russian jet shoots flares at one of our drones, we have perfect pictures and videos to show the American people and the world, but when it comes to UAPs, nothing? Of course, we must always protect our national security.
Oh, see, there it is. If we're protecting our national security, then they're not giving up the goods, especially if these are weapons systems and propulsion systems and energy systems. See, that's the whole guise, man. The national security. We got to keep you safe.
To maintain our superiority, like when stealth helicopters were only rumored to exist but were used in the Osama bin Laden raid in 2011. But we can't allow that to be used as a shield to keep the American people completely in the dark.
Why? It has been for decades and continues to be, and now you're using this as a total and complete obfuscation. That's the reality.
From basic truths. The American people deserve to hear more about special access programs. Congress has a right to know if there's any unsanctioned weapons development. Satellite imagery that has not been provided to Congress. Congress created the All-Domain Resolution Office in the NDAA of 2022. In its initial analysis, there are 171 uncharacterized UAP reports, and this is the words from the report, that appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities. I believe more information is known about the 171 instances. It's time for Congress to reinsert ourselves. I call on our military leaders and intelligence officials to release more information to the American people about UAPs. And to our military leaders, if there's nothing to conceal, let Congress go to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the Dugway Proving Ground, or even Groom Lake in Nevada. We should have disclosure today.
I mean, good luck. It's more than that. First of all, they're not even going to tell you how many black sites they have, how many underground facilities. They're not going to tell you what they've got going on in Antarctica. I know everybody talks about the Arctic Treaty. Well, I guarantee you that we've had a massive military presence there, okay, since World War II, one, that there are crazy things going on at facilities and testing sites there, and that's the tip of the iceberg. Literally, the tip of the iceberg. We have facilities that are mobile, that are in the middle of the ocean, that are conducting tests. We more than likely have different types of craft that are both aerial and submersive. That technology seems to be ours as well. That's in these reports often, that these UFOs, UAPs, whatever, come out of the sea or go back into the sea. And I'm sorry, I don't think that's interdimensional. I don't think that's aliens. I don't think it's coming from the outworlds of the flat earth. Okay? I don't think any of that stuff. I think the flat earth stuff is garbage. I've talked about it many, many times. I think it's a distraction. I think it's misinformation or disinformation. So when a guy like me comes up and starts talking about the weaponization of space, starts talking about the Star Wars program, starts talking about what? Rods of God and these other things, well, then you're a flat earther. I mean, I've actually heard people, like when I dismiss the aliens, like try to bring, oh, what are you into, flat earth? And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are we talking about here? I'm not, and again, I'm not saying it's not a possibility. Is it the probability? No. It's not the probability. I'm sorry. And listen, I get it. Ancient Aliens is extremely entertaining. 90+% of that stuff was debunked by Chris White many, many years ago. And I'm not Mr. Debunky Debunk. Okay, but I watched that, and, you know, so much of that stuff, from the Easter Island statues that people tried to say were aliens, to even the pyramids, slave labor, baby. Cultural labor. It's pretty amazing what can happen under human power. And we're so dismissive of that. We act like we're not as cool as we have been, as historical records show. We're pretty cool. We've done some cool stuff. Doesn't take aliens to do cool stuff.
Today, we should have disclosure tomorrow. The time has come. Thank you, Ranking Member.
Thank you, Mr. Moskowitz, and I would yield back now to our chairman. Thank you.
Right, now I'd like to introduce our witnesses. Our first witness is Lieutenant Ryan.
Okay, so we're going to skip over these 3 eyewitnesses as we did this before yesterday, and anybody can watch that. We did all 3 of these guys, and now we are going to get to, let me see. See, it looks like, I don't want to miss anything. We did Grush. We did him. Yeah, let's make sure. I don't want to rehash. We'll start with right about here.
Would you both agree that it's harmful to not just our national security interests, but to understand this phenomenon of what's happening with UAPs?
I think it's actually a travesty that we don't have a system to correlate this and actually investigate. You know, so if you took the East Coast, you know, there's coastal radars out there that monitor our air defense identification zone, so out to 200 miles. They can track these, you know, so when you see them, they could actually go and pull that data and get maneuvering. And instead of just having the airplanes, there's other data sources out there. And I've talked to other government officials on this. So you need a centrally located repository that these reports go to. So if you just stuck it in DOD, you wouldn't get anything out of the Intelligence Committee because they have a tendency to not to talk. But if you had a central location where these reports would come in, not just military, but also commercial aviation, because there's a lot of that going on, especially if you talk to anyone that flies from here to Hawaii, over the Pacific, they see odd lights. So I think you need to develop something that allows you a central point to collect the data.
And by the way, you notice what he just said? People that fly from here to Hawaii. So in other words, what I was just talking about with oceans, he talked about the Pacific. A lot of military testing has taken place in the oceans and still does today, pointing that out.
In order to investigate.
Mr. Graves?
I would concur with everything Mr. Fravor said. That have reached out to me through Americans for Safe Aerospace are doing so because they don't feel there's another way for them to report this safety issue.
And I think one of the clear...
Again, safety, safety, safety. It's about your safety. We're going to keep you safe. Whenever I hear I'm going to get kept safe, I'm inherently skeptical. Call me kooky.
Outcomes of this hearing already is that there has to be a safe and transparent reporting process for pilots, both on the commercial side and the military side, to be able to report UAPs in a way that's also transparent, but also understands the scope of our national security interests and what may be classified or not. But I think there has to be some sort of system, and so that's something that I hope can be an outcome that this committee can work on. Is there anything else for the two of you briefly beyond this reporting system that you think that we can do as a government to encourage and facilitate more civilian reporting?
I think we're doing it right now.
Okay, great.
I think this hearing is going to show the American people that their government takes this topic seriously.
And how about civilians that may not be pilots? What kind of process could be in place for civilians who are not pilots, who may have UAP encounters? Do either of you have any suggestions that could facilitate that?
Like, this is trash. This is garbage. How do they report what they saw? Who cares? Like it matters. Like, once you get the report, and a lot of these people call it into their local law enforcement. I mean, I want the physical data. That's what I want.
My recommendations would be to make that a sensor-centric operation in order to make it as objective as possible.
Okay. Sir, Mr. Fravor?
No, I agree with Mr. Graves on that.
Okay. Just briefly, I also just want to note, particularly for the two pilots, and I have a question for Mr. Grush. One of the things that I found fascinating in our discussion, Mr. Graves, last night as well, is that you both described UAPs and formations and the way they are observed in space or in our air, and the way that they move is essentially ways in which current technology or aircraft that we know of are unable to actually function or move. And so will you just, for the public record, again, once again, briefly just either describe or note that aircraft that are being witnessed, particularly by the 30 folks that you're working with, are essentially outside the scope of anything that we know of today and the technology we have today. Mr. Graves, Mr. Fravor?
Yes, the objects that are being seen by commercial pilots are performing maneuvers that are unexplainable due to our current understanding of our technology and our capabilities as a country. And that applies for the military as well.
Mr.
Garbage. We've heard all of this before. I want to remind everybody, they want to support the broadcast, redvoicemedia.com YouTube.com/uncensored. That's where you're going to get two extra interviews a week with really great individuals such as Allison Morrow this week, Nick Bryant, Kurt Metzger. We've had so many others. And I've been getting hit by Richard Bartlett lately, and I haven't gotten back to him. We got to get Richard Bartlett on the program. He's another one. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Remember, we keep doing it through 8:30 p.m. here at redvoicemedia.com. I love you guys, and I will see you all on the flip side.